Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Wednesday, April 19th. We are excited to be here today with our new council members, Councilman Robinson and Councilwoman Hodge Washington, and welcome them. We'll begin today's meeting with an invocation. Please rise and join us for an invocation from Police Chaplain Sexton. Please remain standing. Councilman Robinson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you all. We'll now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien. Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ansari.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. We have two interpreters with us to provide Spanish interpretation, Carmen Cota and Gloria San Miguel. Will you introduce yourselves?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Hello, my name is Gloria San Miguel, and along with me is my colleague, Carmen Cota. We will be serving as Spanish interpreters for today's policy session for the City Council formal meeting. I will now take a moment to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience. Hola, buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a la reunión del Consejo de Política, reunión formal del Consejo Municipal. Mi nombre es Gloria San Miguel. Junto con mi colega Carmen Cota estaremos sirviéndole hoy como intérpretes a los de habla hispana. Deseamos pedirles de antemano, si es que van a dar un comentario público, por favor, hable despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada una o dos oraciones para que podamos nosotros interpretar lo que está diciendo de la manera más completa y también posible. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your assistance. Will the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G7100 through 7104, S49567 through 49632, and resolutions 22111 through 22114.
Will the city attorney please explain the role of public comment in council meetings?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. Item number 1 is boards and commissions. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. We do not have any individuals to be sworn in today, so we will go to liquor license applications. The City of Phoenix provides an advisory role to the state of Arizona on liquor license applications. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve items 2 through 11, except item 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
No. I'm sorry, yes.
thank you. O'Brien, Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
So we have approved licenses for a variety of groups, from Lovecraft Beer Shop to a special event with Madison Camel View PTO, or at least recommended their approval to the state. We next turn to item number 2, which is Crazy Girls Cabaret.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Stark.
Yes, I've had a chance to talk to Councilwoman O'Brien. I would like to move to disapprove item 2 because the applicant has not shown he is capable, qualified, or reliable based on his prior liquor license violations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Councilwoman Pastor. We have Jeffrey Miller here to speak if necessary. Based on the motion, would you like to speak? Okay, not seeing.
He's online.
Oh, on virtual. Okay. He is online. Okay, let's, Mr. Miller, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, and thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Craig Miller. I work with the Arizona Liquor Industry Consultants at 1811 South Alma School Road in Mesa, Arizona. We're working with the clients to file the acquisition of control for this location. So it's not the location in question, it would only be the people. And the new applicant that came in is a current licensee at other locations with a clean background. In this one, his father was one of the owners, and his father's not doing well health-wise, so it was transitioned. The father is passing the shares on or sold them to his son, who's now joining into the business. He's been through Title IV Basic and Management, operating other clubs in the metro area with no issues, and putting this through. He's already capable, reliable, and qualified at his other locations, and we've just moved that he's capable, reliable, and qualified in a new application if he's currently a licensee at other Title IV licensed establishments.
Thank you for that testimony. And again, the motion was a motion to disapprove, so a yes vote would support disapproval, and then it would go to the state for further scrutiny. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien, Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning, and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve items 12 through 108, except the following: items 22 through 26, 32, 45, 52, 62, 63, 66, 78, 81, and 82, noting that items 107 and 108 are add-ons and excluding these items for virtual public comment, items 25, 60, and 108, and can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comment?
Yes, Mayor and Vice Mayor, also excluding items 48, 49, 50, and 67. That's 48, 49, 50, and 67.
Thank you. Do we have did we hear, I did not hear a second for the.
Second.
Wonderful. We have a motion and a second. Does anyone need the clerk to repeat the items?
67, right?
Correct, 67.
Okay, thank you.
All right, roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien, Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next go to a series of public hearings related to our memorandum of understanding with our labor groups. This is a two-step process. We will have a hearing today and then a vote at a subsequent council meeting. There are similar investments, including an increased compensation for our employees across all of those. And so any council members who wish to speak on any of those items, I will recognize council members to speak on items 22 through 26 or individual items within those when they would like to do so. We will begin with a public hearing on item 22, which is our memorandum of understanding between the City of Phoenix and LIUNA Local 777. We'll open the public hearing. We do not have any individuals to speak, so I will close the public hearing. Would any council members like to speak on any of the memorandum at this time? Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. The labor contracts we are presenting today are an investment in the people who make our city possible. Our 911 operators, our firefighters, our community action officers, our water service workers, our street maintenance workers, our Head Start staff, our park rangers, and all of other thousands of incredible city employees. They come to work every day to provide the services and technical skills that make our city run. They deserve to be paid well and provide good benefits. We know that when we pay people more and provide them with good benefits, employees thrive, their families are taken care of, and they invest in our local economy. This is basic economics. It was exciting to hear that this year we are going to be retaining and opening up more pools because we have more lifeguards and supervisors that are staying. We had a 74% retention just because we were able to change wages this past year. This simple truth is also why I believe our city should ensure that companies we do business with pay their employees fairly. When employees do not wear a city badge, but they do city work, it only makes sense that they are paid fairly, just like our own city workers. From building the new community centers our residents deserve to expanding our vital water system, any worker that works on city projects deserves to be paid fairly. I look forward to my colleagues supporting and ensuring we pass these new labor contracts for our incredible city employees, and that we also lead by example by improving wages at a larger scale on city projects. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional comments? All right, we will go to the next public hearing. This is on item 23, a public hearing with AFSCME Local 2384, Unit 2. Open the public hearing. We do not have any individuals to comment, so we will close the public hearing. We will next go to item 24, which is a public hearing on AFSCME Local 2960, Unit 3. Open the public hearing. We do not have any individuals to comment. And we do have an individual to comment on item. I missed item 23. I am sorry. Item 23, we did have a member. We do have Jason Henley to comment on item 23.
Is that better? Okay. I'm Jason Henley. I'm the president of Local 2384. We represent 1,485 unit members, work for the city of Phoenix. We make sure that the lights stay on, the water stays running in your city. We make sure that the trash trucks keep moving, as well as a variety of other things from all departments in the city. This has been a long time coming. I've been a millwright for about 18 years now, and we've seen the lack of wages and benefits throughout skilled trades for years from the Great Recession on. So we're very happy. I want to thank the City Council for going the extra mile on this, and that comes from everybody. Everybody that I've talked to in the unit is really excited about this. So I was told to thank you all for this. But I just want to make sure that we don't end this here. That there are people out there that keep this city working. They keep clean water coming to your house. They keep planes, departing and arriving from Sky Harbor. They keep the bathrooms clean. They keep the curbs clear. They paint graffiti in our neighborhoods. There are a lot of moving parts to this, and I don't think that most of these people get the recognition that they deserve. And also, I want to speak for the other brothers and sisters in the units, not Unit 2. They deserve everything that we do as well. And I will thank you for them too. So hopefully in the next meeting we can approve this. And I thank you for that. My time's up.
Thank you, President Henley. President Petroli.
First of all, thank you. My name is Frank Piccioli. I am president of AFSCME Local 2960. We represent armed detention officers, 911 dispatchers, operation assistants, secretaries, your fire inspectors back there, pretty much you name it. First of all, it's very nice and sometimes rare opportunity for me to come up before council and praise management and human resources, but I love doing so. So I hope to do so many times in the future. These negotiations were professional, beneficial to both the employees as well as the city. The increased wages and bonuses before you today will encourage more people to come work for the city, as well as be able to retain employees after many years of drought. We will be able to keep employees and bring them in from the private sector, and we're finally catching up to the increased wages in the private sector. We hope that will continue, as, believe it or not, we'll be doing this whole thing again in 9 months. I want to thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Council. I want to thank Labor Relations. I want to thank city managers and assistant city managers for incredible support this year during this negotiation for the workers, and finally being able to give them the competitive wages and bonuses that they truly deserve, and you are appreciated. Hopefully, too, in the future, we can work towards getting our part-timers the benefits of health care that they don't receive in the city, but we'll save that fight for another day. Today, I just wanted to say thank you on both city side from all of Unit 2, Unit 3, all the units that are here before. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that important testimony. We will close that public hearing and go to item number 25, which is a public hearing of our agreements with plea. We have 6 individuals to speak on this item. We will open the public hearing on item 25. We will begin with Stephanie Espinoza, followed by Ann Ender.
Good afternoon, City Council and Mayor and the public. My name is Stephanie Espinoza, and I'm here with the Pueblo's budget. I'm sure y'all heard plenty from us, but we're once here again. And we're here today specifically because the Phoenix Police got $20 million in pay raises last summer, and every other city worker was left behind. Phoenix Police are already the highest paid police in the state. The millions of dollars that will be given for police pay raises and bonuses in this contract should be going to fund community resources from the Pueblo's budget that came directly from your constituents. We need investment in the city workers who help our communities thrive. In our Pueblo's budget, it includes investments in labor like increasing pay for all city employees, full-time or part-time, to a minimum of $20 per hour. Every time we ask for new investments and expansions here at the city, we are told the same thing over and over. We don't have staff for implementation. And we hear from the same city staff that the reason for this is because we don't have competent wages for city workers, and they rather go to other cities or sectors with higher wages. Why not invest in city employees who keep our communities, our streets, our parks clean and thriving? People who can provide direct services to our community members and keep our neighborhoods thriving. I was just outside council chambers with around 30 unsheltered folks who need access to restrooms 24/7 in public spaces, housing that is safe from heat, and access to free transportation and so many other resources that we could invest in our community members and their well-being. All of our community resources and programs are left with crumbs, while the police budget just keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Ender is next, followed by Chalet Flores.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Ann Ender, Operation Blue Ribbon, Police Support. I actually had something prepared, but her comments really, I think, struck a chord in me. We have the privilege to the Constitution and the privilege you all give us to our opinions, and I respect everybody's opinions. But there's a big point that a lot of the public's missing here, and this is why the memorandum of understanding with the police department is critical. There's 2,200 members, and I know you all know these numbers, but just for the public so they understand, we don't have enough officers, and we need contracts and wages that are going to attract good people and retain the ones we have. Don't you want public safety in your neighborhoods? I do. And that's why I collaborate with them all the time. We work all the time with our departments and with the commanders and the precincts. I'm sorry. So I guess I'll get off my soapbox, but I also want to plead to the silent majority, and Councilman Waring, you mentioned that in your inauguration speech. We know the majority of this city does support their police department, so I'm asking you all to start speaking up. We can't have just one voice. It's a fact what we talk about. We're not throwing numbers out there that are fun to say. It's facts. So please speak up, and I just encourage all of you to be very positive and approve it, and thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I forgot to welcome Councilwoman Hodge Washington and Councilman Robinson. It's a pleasure to see you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Flores is next, followed by Ben Laughlin.
To whom I direct my comments, I will not say your name. Although you've branded us with animosity, we stand. We stand out of necessity in response to your negligence and failed leadership. We don't represent the minority, we represent the people who are most impacted. You invalidate our efforts to demand accountability. You invalidate even your council peers by claiming that we are merely staging unfair political stunts. We call this gaslighting. A political stunt is allowing yourself and your departments to break your own city code and negotiate the spending of our tax dollars behind closed doors. A political stunt is forcing those who dare to challenge your leadership out of committees and city positions. A political stunt is graduating from an Ivy League school and moving to one of the most marginalized districts in the nation to build your political career. To you, this is a political career. To us, it is our livelihood. This month, a judge sent you a clear message about future negotiations with plea, and that you won't get away with violating city code in the future. What will you do when you no longer get away with your political stunts? Your political stunt to hide the MOU contract details impacts the safety and well-being of everyone in our community. Every dollar police get is a dollar that could go towards critical community resources like housing, 24/7 bathrooms, and public transportation. By the way, why don't you move those positions out of the police into other departments to actually reach solutions? Your disproportionate budget that takes from literally every department and bloats the public safety allocation is embarrassing. How are you not embarrassed? I'll close with thank you to the city officials who do not shy away from accountability. Those who are asking the hard questions, please continue to be bold.
Ben is next, followed by Leonard Clark.
My name is Ben Laughlin. I'm a resident of District 4. I'm speaking today in opposition to the pay raises for Phoenix Police. Police officers got massive pay raises last summer while other city employees were left behind. With thousands of vacant positions in this city and many programs and services hurting because of it, it doesn't make sense to double up on pay raises for police. They're already the highest paid department in the state, and it sends a message to other city employees that their work isn't as important as the work of police. Having basic things like clean parks, reliable trash pickup, Head Start, and enough housing for everyone will do more to boost the health and safety of our neighborhoods than another pay raise for police. I'm also here today to encourage council to take action to open these negotiations to the public. In December, we saw the city let Plea withhold their proposed contract from community review and telling us there was nothing they could do to hold Plea accountable to the process. At this point, I'm not actually sure why we even have a city code when it seems like council and the mayor in particular get to pick and choose when to follow the law. Making these negotiations open to the public would at least solve the problem of Plea being able to hide their contract. The lack of the proposed contract in December meant that residents didn't get to give feedback to council members before the negotiations were already wrapped up. Y'all know that changes on these contracts rarely, if ever, happen once the negotiations have closed. Giving us this public comment period as our only option is a false opportunity to impact a contract that has severe public safety consequences. To be honest, it was really hard to be motivated to show up today when I knew my comments would have no impact. All that being said, no on pay raises for police, yes on pay raises for all other city employees, and please open up these negotiations to the public. Thank you.
Leonard Clark is next.
Hello, Mayor and council members, and thank you to the new city council members that were just have been newly inaugurated. I would just first of all like to speak to the young people. They're not all young, but the ones who believe that their words tonight have they don't have hope that what they're saying is going to achieve change. Ideas are more powerful in the long run than standing armies, than police with batons clubbing you, shooting you in the back, and then having the law system work against you. That's why we talk more today about the philosophy of Plato and Socrates and Aristotle than we do about Alexander the Great and his armies. In the short run, the armies and their guns and their weapons and their batons, yes, they can temporarily silence, but as Dr. King and Mahatma Gandhi and Cesar Chavez, right here from our beautiful state of Arizona, have shown us the power of ideas and your nonviolent will of love and light to overcome tyranny, which I believe equals hate, can indeed work. Sometimes, unfortunately, in the long run or the short run, we have dictators and they do have to be conquered, but hopefully that's not the case here. I put myself down as neutral, but I would like to be switched to against because I believe, just as from a libertarian standpoint with civil forfeiture, the legal right of the police to rob citizens for having large sums of cash on them, because the last time I checked in the Constitution, I don't think that you should be having your money taken away and legally robbed by people with a badge. And before people start saying, I hate the police, I love the young people speaking out, and I love the young police officers who are like confused because their elders have told them to fear the people who speak up against them. We are combating a system, not each other. And for that, I would just say, again, we need a lot more reform in this country because I quite honestly, with the armed camps going on, I think love and light prevails, and thank you to the young people for being here.
To our city staff, do we have any additional members of the public to comment on this item?
No, Mayor.
All right. We will close the public hearing on item 25 and go to item 26, which is a MOU between the City of Phoenix and Firefighters Local 493. We'll open the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public to comment on this item?
No, Mayor.
We will close that public hearing. We will go to item 32, which is related to the dedication of easements and deeds for public utility, roadway, sidewalk, and shared use path purposes. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 32.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
It's my understanding that Councilwoman Pastor has a conflict. Is that
I have
correct?
a conflict, yes.
Thank you. Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Ansari. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
We next go to item 45, which is a resolution to declare the second Monday in October of each year as a designated city holiday known as Indigenous Peoples Day. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 45.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Pastor.
Yes, this is really exciting. I am working with the Native American community to declare this resolution, but also to work on a land acknowledgement on the second Monday in October. So just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And the Human Relations Commission is also working on that, and the Parks Board has already moved forward on that. This is an exciting item that has been many years in the making. In my city council days, we had residents come to us, two young men in particular, to ask us to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day, and we began originally as a recognized day but not a city holiday. And now we are, with this vote, have the opportunity to take it to a full designated city holiday, which would recognize the roots on which our city is built, and I'm looking forward to supporting it. Any additional comments? Councilman Waring.
Just a question. So this is going to be a day off for the city. The city's going to be closed. How much does that cost us?
Mayor, members of the council, I can answer that question. Councilman Waring, the cost to the city for an additional city holiday is approximately $1.5 million to the general fund and approximately $2 million to all funds.
Are we taking away a holiday?
We are not.
Should we think about taking away a holiday?
Mayor, members of the council, that would be a decision for the council to make. That is, the proposal is to add Indigenous Peoples Day as a holiday without removing any other holidays.
Can you remind me, are the day after Thanksgiving and the day after Christmas, they are paid holidays, correct?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Waring, currently the day after Thanksgiving is a paid city holiday. The day after Christmas is not. Christmas Day is a paid holiday.
Well, Christmas Day, I know, but December 26th is not.
No, that's correct.
But the day after Thanksgiving is.
Correct.
And Thanksgiving. I'm not talking about Thanksgiving, I'm talking about the day after.
Thanksgiving and the day after are both paid city holidays, yes.
Should we do a swap where people use vacation days so that they can have this day off in October? That would be revenue neutral, would it not?
Mayor, members of the council, my assumption would be that that would be revenue neutral. That decision would be something for the council to make, and also something that we would need to negotiate with our labor groups, as the current holidays are part of the memoranda of understanding.
Are days off, Mayor, included in the compensation packages? I mean, we're basically just adding another day off, and that's all stuff that's probably in the MOUs we're just talking about, right? In some fashion.
Yes.
How much time off people get would be in there, right?
The city holidays as they exist today are costed to the labor packages. This would be an additional holiday added on top of that that would not be costed to the current package that's before you today.
When you negotiated, did you include that in there?
No, this was not included in the package that was negotiated this year. It would be negotiated going forward as part of the holiday package.
So basically, we're just asking taxpayers to not have the city open for another day and to pay $2 million for the privilege.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Waring, this was brought to you at the request of the council last October when Indigenous Peoples Day occurred. We were asked to look at this and bring it back as a proposal to the council, and so that's what is before you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
Pastor,
Of course, yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
No.
Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-1.
We next move to item 48, which is a request to increase Head Start, Birth to 5, and Child Care Partnership funding. Vice Mayor.
Move to approve item 48.
Second.
Thank you. Head Start has been a major priority for this council. Look forward to supporting this item. We do have one public comment from Leonard Clark.
Thank you, council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I was born right here in Phoenix, but I hope that you'll pass this, not since the days of Governor Napolitano when we had all-day, finally, fully funded kindergarten. You know, I just hope the legislature will do like you're doing, and I hope in the National Congress, which they're trying to do something for daycare right now, for the hard-pressed families who have to work and have no one to watch their children. I congratulate you for at least trying to do something here in the 5th largest city in the United States of America. I hope you will vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next move to item 49, authorization to extend contracts with Central Arizona Shelter Services and the Salvation Army. Vice Mayor.
Move to approve item 49.
Second.
Leonard Clark.
As you know, this has been a controversial issue. I'm glad that you're taking these actions. In fairness, we have no rent control in the state of Arizona. We have young people constantly worrying that their rent is going to be raised because the legislature has decided to stand up, and there's nice landlords out there, but the big landlords, they've got their way at the legislature, no rent control. Many of our young people are being thrown into the streets. And since the days of Reagan, with deregulation, people who have mental health issues and drug addictions who would like to get help, but because of the lack of funding for those who put that first, I guess, they called it physical conservatism, but it makes no sense in the long run because you lose money when more people, more Americans get addicted. This is what almost destroyed China in the early days, was the opium addictions, but they took drastic measures to stop that. So right now, we have a severe problem going on, and I don't think it's totally fair to blame Phoenix. All of these surrounding areas need to do the same. I'm not sure if something's going on in Avondale and the other cities, but again, I congratulate the city council for your hopeful voting for this measure, which will try to do something while trying to respect the human rights and dignity of our homeless brothers and sisters who have their belongings taken, who are looked down upon. But the truth is, it could be any one of us that this could happen to. So please, let's get going on this. Let's do something. The Ninth Circuit Court judge, I believe, said of appeals, as long as the municipality or the government entity can provide housing and get these folks off the streets, that's a way to do it. And I know some of my friends are concerned about that, but I think it's a start. We cannot have our brothers and sisters freezing to death, dying of dehydration. This is the 21st century, and the city of Phoenix will become a city of love and light, and you're going to help do that today by passing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next move to item 50, with his authorization to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Maricopa County.
Move to approve item 50.
Second.
And this is another investment related to shelter. The City of Phoenix is partnering with Maricopa County and Community Bridges, and this is to partner on the funding costs. Leonard Clark. Perfect. For those of you who are watching online, Leonard Clark is in support of investments in homelessness. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next move to item 52, authorization to amend contract with Maricopa County Community College District, Route to Relief.
Move to approve item 52.
Second.
And noting that Councilwoman Pastor will not be participating in this item. We have a great partnership with our community college, which has been helping us invest in people to make sure they can get high-wage jobs. This program not only helps with tuition, but also childcare and transportation, and has helped folks move into healthcare jobs, semiconductor jobs, and so much more. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari. Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
We next move to item 60, Parks and Recreation Department Park Activation Neighborhood Grant Program. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 60.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dana Burns, please come and testify. And Dana is hearing Burn virtually.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I am in support of this park activation. And yesterday, our new D8 councilwoman, thank you, ladies, for helping me with the extra support I needed for an event coming up this Sunday, April 23rd. I invite the whole city of Phoenix to come out and be a part of what we're doing to activate Esteban Park on 32nd Street and Rozier Road in South Phoenix. This is something that we need in our community that allows learning opportunities, respect, appreciation for the culture of one another. It promotes engagement and building of strong and diverse communities. Miss Dana Burns and the whole South Side, we are in support. Let's go, City of Phoenix. Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a lot of smiles in the room in response to that testimony. This is an exciting one. We have so many great ideas in our city, and this will give our community an opportunity to move forward. And we've had a lot of ideas in our budget process this year, including on cricket. So folks in the community, pay attention to this one. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
We are going to go and go. Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Thank you. And just a note that that program will be modeled after the successful neighborhood grant application process that we are currently been doing on arts and culture, and it's funded in partnership with our federal government. We next move to item 62, utility transportation and golf vehicles and related accessories, equipment, parts, and services. Vice Mayor.
I move to approve item 62.
Second.
Comments? Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-1.
Item 63 is First and McKinley Street parcels, lease and redevelopment, authorization to issue solicitation. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item 63.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Vice Mayor Ansari.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight how exciting this RFP is. It's one of the first of its kind in our city, which specifically is asking for a mixed-use high-rise development that includes stipulations asking for 10% affordable housing and 10% workforce housing. It's critical that we provide more affordable housing options for our teachers, our retail and restaurant workers, artists, and seniors who actually live and work in the downtown area. That's what I hear most from longtime residents who continue to be pushed out of our downtown core due to a lack of living wages that they can use to compete with new residents who can afford the higher rents. I want to emphasize for developers who might be looking at this RFP, if you're considering applying, a key portion of this project is looking for ground floor activation, and we're looking to fill everyday needs for a truly walkable neighborhood. So retail that's missing in our downtown. Downtown still needs more basic amenities like a hardware store, a laundromat, a nail salon, a veterinarian's office, just to give a few examples. And we want to make sure that these needs can be met without getting in a car so that more of our downtown residents can opt out of owning one. I also want to note that this project will be on both sides of First Street and provides an opportunity for unique, iconic architecture that could really place make this specific intersection in our city. I really, really cannot wait to see the end result of this RFP. Thank you.
Thank you. And this shows that we are incorporating affordable housing in a variety of different votes. We've done some traditional votes already today, including investments in shelter, but this is going to be mostly market rate, and we'll have both affordable and workforce units, as the Vice Mayor mentioned. The American Planning Association has called Roosevelt Row one of the top places in America. We are hopeful that as we move forward with this request for proposals, that it will align with the Roosevelt Row success and community values. I'm looking forward to supporting the issuance and seeing the creative ideas that come back. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next move to item 66, which is text amendments to Phoenix City Council Code Chapter 10A, Phoenix Convention Center. Will the city clerk please read the title?
Item 66 is for ordinance G7102, an ordinance amending Chapter 10A of the Phoenix City Code pertaining to convention center and theaters.
This code was last updated in 2014. Comments? Roll call. Oh, we need a motion. Thank you, Councilwoman Pastor. Vice Mayor.
Move to approve item 66.
Second.
Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next move to item 78, contract award for TOD planning grant for the Northwest Extension Phase 2 Light Rail Corridor. Vice Mayor.
Move to approve item 78.
I'm sorry, the city clerk has reminded me that I think we do need to go to 67 next. I'm sorry. This is another one that Mr. Clark has pulled for comment. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on 67?
Move to approve item 67.
Second.
And item 67 is Homeland Security Grant Program funds. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, council members. I know, sorry to slow down the action a little bit. My name is Leonard Clark. On the Homeland Security, these types of things, you know, I'm conflicted about it because, of course, we know that the great reform we need to have for law enforcement and the judicial system in this country, although the judicial system seems to be saving our republic right now. So thank God for independent judges. But I'm concerned. I think that I would tilt towards supporting this because I am concerned with the growing civil strife across the country with people who think that hate is going to get them somewhere, militias and groups arming themselves. I do worry that if some type of action is taken in the near future by some of our friends who believe that, I guess, parts of the Constitution should be terminated, I do worry that the public safety of the citizens and the people who live in Phoenix, Arizona, what do we have to know to be reassured as a public that you will protect us? How do we not know you will not have the forces and the technology to stop militias from blocking highways, cutting off water to us, everything? Sounds like far-fetched, but if you look at the Ukraine and what happened in the Crimea with Mr. Putin, so as much as I know that we need to have continued great radical reform of law enforcement, and I do not hate law enforcement because there are those who give their lives, but there are others who get away with murder, and it's not fair to the ones who sacrifice their lives to have their reputations sullied. I still think that I would ask that you vote for this Homeland Security item because in the coming days, we're seeing signs of civil strife, civil conflict by some people who think that through acts of terror, they can do things. This is how small groups of people do very bad things and very good things. All they would have to do is cut off the major roads, the water plants. We have a nuclear power plant. How do we know? How can you assure us that you won't? So thank you, please. Thank you.
Comments? Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor. Yes. Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Back to item 78, contract award for Northwest Extension, TOD.
Move to approve item 78.
Second.
Comments? Roll call. We have a speaker? All right. Jeremy Thacker.
Good afternoon. As an urbanist and avid supporter of Strong Towns principles, I find myself conflicted on whether to support spending time and money to create a new TOD plan for the light rail extension. To clarify, you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger fan of Reinvent Phoenix than the Uptown TOD policy plan, and Josh and his team for that matter. Yet, you may be hard-pressed to find a bigger critic as it relates to the execution of the plan. For example, the Uptown TOD policy plan mentions the Uptown Steering Committee over 30 times. The 5-year action plan, a one-page document, mentions the Uptown Steering Committee over 10 times. Of all groups relied upon in the plan, in the action plan, the Uptown Steering Committee takes the lead. Yet, the Uptown Steering Committee was dissolved after a year. For the last 6 years, we've had our foot on the gas and nobody behind the wheel. At a July 2015 meeting in these chambers, Councilmember Pastor wisely added a friendly amendment to the ordinance regarding the walkable urban code that required ongoing annual review of variances, use of PUDs, and other metrics. 2016 was the only instance of this report taking place. So apparently we've got our foot on the gas, no driver, and no rearview mirrors either, even if we did. Maybe we should pump the brakes. While I believe the purpose, policies, plans, and metrics were on target, I must ask, what good are policies that aren't enforced? What good is a plan that is not executed? What good are metrics that are not measured or reviewed? What good are objectives when no mechanism exists to bring them to fruition? How can anyone trust a new plan when the existing plan have been used as a mechanism by developers for increasing density in units while avoiding the other requirements in walkable communities? How can residents of Uptown not be cynical of a new plan when the existing plans betrayed us? I propose that the new plan will not be any different unless this leadership shows the fortitude to reassure residents by reinvesting and reinvigorating in the purpose of Reinvent. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-1.
Item 81 is related to a solid waste disposal facility fee. Will the city clerk read the title?
Item 81 is for ordinance G7100, an ordinance amending Chapter 27-53 of the Phoenix City Code to increase the solid waste disposal fee to commercial customers disposing solid waste at city facilities and to eliminate the solid waste disposal facility permit fee.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 81.
Second.
Comments? Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Ansari.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-1.
We next go to item 82, amend the city code related to street improvements. Will the city clerk please read the title?
Item 82 is for ordinance G7101, an ordinance amending Phoenix City Code, Chapter 31-101B, pertaining to the street improvement assessment policy to align with Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 9-243.
Move to approve item 82.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next move to item 108, which is related to the prevailing wage ordinance and request of an 8-hour rule to research the legality of a prevailing wage ordinance. This item came from a 3-person memo from council members who were requesting to put it on today's agenda. Right, Denise? Okay, I'm sorry. The city clerk, I thought, was saying something to me. The city attorney has advised that we take this in 2 votes, one related to past action and one related to action moving forward. We have been talking with the Attorney General's office, who has agreed to provide us with legal support so that we can craft an ordinance that will help us fairly pay our construction workers, which we want to do. We want to make sure that we move forward in a way that is legal and financially viable. A clear majority of council members here want to make sure that we support our construction workers, and I certainly unequivocally want to support the fight for fair wages. To our construction workers in particular, we owe our city's incredible growth and infrastructure improvements. Our construction workers work in hard conditions, including our extreme summer heat. We previously voted on an ordinance that was not brought to council in a process that included city officials, so our city attorney had not seen the language when we voted. If we are going to do an ordinance that withstands legal challenges, I think it's important to have a transparent process that includes stakeholders and legal review. Every member of the council agrees that community engagement is important, and we want a process that brings contractors, unions, and residents to the table to find a legal path forward. The council members who asked to move it forward have emphasized the need to do it quickly, and the city manager is working with us to lay out a process so that it can move forward this year, which is important. We want to work on the language. It is better to have one that can withstand lawsuits and that makes sense and is consistent with both our city processes and codes as well as the laws of the state of Arizona. So we want a robust process that is transparent, but also my colleagues have pushed the need for speed and deadlines. Would anyone like to make Councilwoman Stark?
Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion. I will say that I agree with you. We need to look at fair wages for people that work on city projects, but we need to do it correctly. We need to make sure we're looking at the issues of what that ordinance may look like, but also what kind of financial impacts this might have on our future. Right now, I am very concerned because of our comp and class study, and I want to make sure that our workers that are at the city get paid fairly, and I don't want to see something happen to that, but I'd be happy to make a motion. The first motion would be to rescind the decisions of the City Council on March 22nd, 2023 to pass a resolution titled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Phoenix, Arizona, enacting the following prevailing wage ordinance for city projects to be codified as Article XIV of Chapter 43 of the Phoenix City Code because of a number of substantial legal procedural deficiencies related to the resolution's passage."
Second.
Mayor,
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Pastor.
I have a substitute motion.
Go ahead.
My motion is to direct staff to process a resolution of the City Council of the City of Phoenix, Arizona, enacting the following prevailing wage ordinance for the city's projects to be codified as Article 14 of Chapter 43 of the Phoenix City Code that was passed on March 22nd, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. In following with council rules, we will vote on the substitute motion, and then we will vote on the original motion if the substitute motion is unsuccessful. Regardless of the first motions, we will then have a motion on the path forward and next steps related to the second part of the three-person memo. Additional, Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. Julie, I had just a couple of questions for you. So what's been said here is that the proposal or the ordinance that we put on the table is illegal. Can you tell us what of that memorandum or whatever you want to call it is illegal?
So, Mayor and Council, so some of those issues we discussed in e-session, and so I would rather not, provide those in public. What I can tell you is this second motion that you've made to ratify those actions should solve that issue if the council were to pass to proceed with that ordinance.
So we don't know if what we put forward on the 22nd is illegal or not because you don't have the authority to look through it, correct? Because you haven't had the 8-hour rule passed. At least that's what you told me that last time you were in my office, that you were not able. Can you explain then to us on your memo to the mayor where you're asking her not to sign this into a referendum or into an ordinance? Why was that?
Of course. So, Mayor and Council, what I discussed with you is on its face, there are some legal issues with the ordinance that was passed on March 22nd. I would recommend that we discuss any specifics of those in an e-session. The memo was regarding some process issues that we saw with passage of the ordinance.
So it's more the passage, not the verbiage in the ordinance, correct?
Mayor and Council, that's correct.
So with that,
there are two issues. So there are legal issues both with the passage of how it was processed on March 22nd. There are also legal issues with the content of the ordinance. So there's two separate issues.
And then my last question, in regards of the 1487 that was filed, let's say that this repeal goes through and the ordinance dies. What happens? Do we still have to wait for a decision from the AG?
So, Mayor and Council, my understanding is that we have received a 1487 complaint, which for the public is a complaint from a legislator saying that passing this resolution is in violation of Arizona state statutes. If the ordinance goes forward, then we would go through the process of responding to the 1487 complaint. If this ordinance is rescinded in today's action, then we would advise the AG's office that there is no longer an ordinance that would potentially be in violation.
So there would be a chance if this was not brought forward to kill this, there would have been an option for the AG to come in, tell us what to correct it, and then move forward a lot sooner. Is that correct?
So, Mayor and Council, if under a 1487 complaint process, which is governed by Arizona statutes, the Attorney General would give us the complaint, which I have not seen, and then we would have a chance to respond. The Attorney General would then opine on whether they felt the city was in violation of 1487, the state statutes.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that being said, I mean, we have had plenty of conversations about this. I've been on this council since 2019. My first day in office, I have been talking about the need to improve wages in our city. For our city workers, I have been advocating for improved contracts and meetings with leadership and rank and file members of our labor groups. And we just heard from them of how much I've never heard them talk so great about how proud they feel about their union contracts like they have today. So congratulations to all of you. For our contracted workers, I have walked the picket lines and spoken to workers out on strike as they fight for better pay and benefits. We have seen airport workers, right, with the lines and lines of not being able to make a coffee. We've seen workers where they don't have the benefits that they need, and we've seen workers die at the airport as well because they don't have the benefits that they deserve. And for the construction workers who work on our many large-scale city projects, I have been meeting with you and advocating for fair pay and benefits through a prevailing wage ordinance. In 2021, the Phoenix City Council had an opportunity to pass an 8-hour rule to begin looking into a prevailing wage ordinance. The majority of the council at the time voted against the idea. Not exactly sure what's different today. Maybe we have more homelessness out on the streets and maybe we think it's a good idea now. Not exactly sure what's going to happen with this, but we've been trying this since 2021. I continue to look into the issue. I spoke with developers, I spoke with labor leaders, I spoke with construction workers, I spoke with attorneys and elected officials. And I know there's been rounds and rounds of meetings about prevailing wage with different council members and different companies and people that are affected by this. On March 22nd, a bipartisan majority of the Phoenix City Council voted to pass the city's first ever prevailing wage ordinance. We made history, but now that history is being repealed as people hide behind their concerns with the so-called process. The same process has led us to where we are today with the country's worst housing affordability crisis and an astronomical rise in homelessness that anyone who drives on our city streets can see. Many of us on this council have campaigned on promises to support working families, the folks being left behind, the ones being squeezed or priced out of those or on fixed incomes, and the people who build up our city while they struggle to put food on the tables. People in our city are struggling every day to make ends meet, and we have a responsibility to stand up for them and their families. We need to do it today. We cannot do it at the end of the year, and we cannot go through another process. This process started in 2020, and if you ask me, I think it started way before that. The prevailing wage ordinance is one path to improve the lives of working families in Phoenix. I would hope that my colleagues agree that we should let the Attorney General decide how do we move forward faster. I think that is our opportunity to really put a prevailing wage on the table. I understand the concerns. I understand the legalities. Let's let the Attorney General make this decision and do it now, not wait another 6 or 7 months, or let other people that don't agree with a prevailing wage, that are greedy enough to think that they don't want to touch their own bottom line. This is not going to make anyone go poor. This is only going to help us deal with the homeless crisis that we have in front of us and the housing crisis in front of us right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. 1487 has been referred to as the mother of all preemption bills. It takes away state shared revenue from communities if a single legislature and the Attorney General feel that the action is not appropriate. Here we have an opportunity where the Attorney General of Arizona is happy just to work with us and provide advice. We don't need a threat of loss of state shared revenue. We have an Attorney General who wants to find solutions and has been working with other communities in a proactive way. If we are going to have a good legal debate, it's important to have the lawyers who will be defending this in court involved in the crafting. We can find a way that is both legal and financially viable to invest in our construction workers. Those two ideas can coexist, and we have an opportunity to do so. The language we voted on previously was language I had not seen until we were voting on it, And that is not a good way to do public policy. It's the first time in my about a decade here where we just passed something straight written by a lobbyist, well-meaning or not. We have to work with our city attorney and do this in a transparent way. We will learn more. People have brought up a variety of concerns, including folks who are in the labor community who have ideas about how they might have had different language because they were not involved in the language we voted on at the last meeting. We can get this done right this year, and we can work with the Attorney General without a threat of loss of state shared revenues. Any additional comment? Councilwoman Pastor.
Julie, do you happen to have the slide of demonstrating the timeline of how long we've been advocating for prevailing wage?
Mayor and Council, yes, I do have a timeline regarding the prevailing wage ordinance history.
Okay. Do you want to verbally talk about it, or do you want to put it up on the, how do you want to do it?
I'd be happy to run through it.
Okay.
If that's.
Because I believe 6/2022, I was part of this language. 6/23, it was a policy session. Could you please tell me what we were voting on that day?
Correct. To Mayor and Council. So the timeline for prevailing wage on June 23rd, an 8-hour rule request for consideration to research a prevailing wage ordinance was taken to policy session, and that item failed.
And that item failed. There's several colleagues of mine that were part of that. When it was brought to 6/23, the same argument as we're hearing today was the same argument in 6/23/2022. I got a lot of heat because I was a part of this. I got a lot of heat because I slowed the process down in order to have community engagement, community outreach, along with another colleague. We did that process. We went through the process. Then the vote came up 6/23, and it failed. Can you tell me the next time?
The next agenda date was July 1st, 2020. At a formal meeting, there was a request for reconsideration of the item from the June 23rd policy session, and that item failed.
That item failed. I believe it wasn't heard, or it failed. We were going to take it off, and then we decided we were just going to keep it on and go forward. Once again, it was up for reconsideration, had a discussion with community leaders, colleagues. We were prepared to go, and it failed. There's another time that we did it. I want to say it was 6/22/2021.
Correct. About a year later, it came back to policy session for an 8-hour rule regarding construction jobs and compensation.
Once again, you guys can go back and see the history and look who voted against it. Try it again. It failed. Oh, approved.
That item was approved.
Then we had e-session, discussion only regarding that, and it didn't move. Then we had another meeting.
On October 6, 2021, consideration of a prevailing wage ordinance came to a formal meeting and failed.
And failed again. And then, was it March 22nd? I can't remember if it was my daughter's birthday or not, but last week, March, let me see. What day that? What
22nd.
Okay. It was March 22nd when we finally brought it back up, and it passed. And now you want to see it's getting repealed or rescinded, however term you want to use. Then I received a confidential packet as to why, reasons why the ordinance could not come about. And one of the understandings is, I believe it's Rule 15 in the Rules of Council Proceedings, that I was told it was a procedural purpose. So I went back and I read about the 8-hour rule. And what it says, as an individual council member shall only request a staff project requiring over 8 hours of staff work by seeking approval of the full city council. Goes on to say, this includes requests such as research, ordinance development, listening sessions, hearings, or community input meetings. The request shall be made in writing to the city manager identifying the project being requested. Julie, the item that we voted on March 22nd, 2023, we voted on an ordinance, or however you want to title it. I have the big, long title here.
Well, to Mayor and Council, it was put on the agenda as a resolution.
I'm sorry?
It was put on the agenda as a resolution.
Okay, but then we passed it as an ordinance. We had this conversation this morning.
Well, there was some confusion, I believe, because the title states it was a resolution of the City Council enacting a prevailing wage ordinance.
Okay. Well, regardless of resolution ordinance, we passed an item. Am I correct? A prevailing wage item.
Mayor and Council, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. So if you read Rule 15, we didn't ask for a development of ordinance because we developed it. So I just want to be clear on how this is all playing out. Then, if you read on, you go on to B and you read, and it says, however, development of a new ordinance, and if you're in a subcommittee, will generally require an 8-hour request approval by the full. Well, we didn't ask city to develop an 8-hour rule. We presented one, and we voted on one, and it passed. And when this item passes, the directive is then it gets implemented by staff, but then now we have a procedural piece. And I appreciate all the things and everything that is happening. Then we'll get talking about finances and you know, all these pieces about budget and how it's going to hurt the budget and hit the budget and comp and class and everything else. What I understand from the city manager in the conversation that I've had with him is that this could be phased in and looked at in a phased process. We just may need some time and looking at it. That's the conversation that I have heard and my other colleagues have heard. Am I wrong or right? I'm correct. Okay. So what happened yesterday is a 1487 came about, and for the AG to look at this and give an opinion, and you're hearing argument as to why we have to do it, and those council members weren't right, and they didn't do it right, and this is why we have to do what we have to do, and we have to go through an 8-hour rule, and I want to get it through, but it's gotten through. And you're going to see right now in the vote who really believes in prevailing wage and who believes in the workers. My bottom line is that I renewed my vow on Monday, and what I said is I put people over politics. And I will always stand with that value because it's been ingrained in me, and I will put people over politics and families over politics because of that. So I will be voting yes for that.
Just want to clarify, it is not a repeal because it wasn't codified. It went through in a very atypical fashion, which was very rushed. We saw the language, most of us saw the language just a few minutes before the vote, and we have already gotten legal letters that are concerned about the process in addition to the content. So for folks who want this policy to be enacted, you don't want procedural concerns. You want just the debate on the content, and this is vulnerable in two different areas because of the atypical process going forward. It is quite likely this is a question that will be decided in one of two ways. The Arizona Supreme Court will make a final decision, or the voters of the state of Arizona will make a decision voting on a ballot initiative that clarifies two ballot initiatives which govern what we do in the state of Arizona. It would be very helpful to draft a policy with the Attorney General support, because it is going to end up in the courts regardless of what happens. We ready, Councilwoman Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask some questions of Jeff and Julie. Could you walk us through, Julie, I guess the difference in the process between waiting for a 1487 from the AG, what that would look like, and if you could play out the two different scenarios. Let's say she looks at it and says it is legal, then what could happen? And if she says it's not legal, then what could happen?
So, Mayor and Council, if we proceed with passing an ordinance and we have a 1487 challenging that ordinance, so
well, we have. So
there's a back and forth with the Attorney General. The Attorney General, we explain, our process, why we would think it was legal. So we try to defend it. The AG will then opine. They can do three things. They can say that it's fine. We can move forward. They don't see a violation. They can say that there is a violation and we need to rectify it. We usually have 30 days to do that. Or they can say that it's unclear. Now, if they do say that there's a violation and we have 30 days to rectify it, then we would decide whether to repeal it or whether we wanted to challenge it. And if we challenged it, it would go to a court and where we would have a normal procedure and argue that.
So best case scenario, she comes out and says, yes, this is fine, please proceed. Worst case scenario, we still have 30 days to go back and basically be back where we are today.
Correct. We would have time to repeal the ordinance.
So we don't immediately lose any revenue. We have the opportunity to amend.
Mayor and Council, that's correct.
Okay. And then in regards to, I know there are, that would obviously clarify the legal issues. In regards to financial concerns that have been brought about in my conversations with you, Jeff, one of the areas, there's a couple things. Obviously, it's, the stakeholder groups are stakeholders who are not part of the conversation who want to be. And there's things like the bond that, we've already passed and we've already gone through that process and maybe we don't want to touch going back. Would you see a feasible option for you to, while we wait for an AG opinion or determine the legalities, for you to hold some focus groups, some stakeholder meetings, develop a timeline and a phased approach? All of these different pieces, could you potentially do that?
Vice Mayor, Mayor, members of the council, I think you can do both concurrently. I think we could definitely set up some focus groups and move this thing forward. I think there's a path to get here. I think we're all supportive of the concept. I think it's just doing it the right way. And I think we also do have to, my job is to protect the city from a financial perspective. I've got a fiduciary responsibility. And I think we have to do things in a way that's not going to impact the budget. This thing came out when the budget was already baked. It was already cooked. It wasn't, it wasn't known at the time we developed the budget. And so I think, we've got to reconcile that. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of look at this in a phased approach, and maybe you roll things in a slower fashion. Maybe you set thresholds on terms of dollar amount of various contracts, and you look at the CIP, you take the bond program as a different animal altogether, and then we evaluate the other areas. But we do that collectively with you, with the council. We do that with our labor partners out there that are actually doing the work on behalf of the city, as well as the contractors that are employing those individuals. I think we have to have a holistic approach, and we can do that. And I think we could probably get something back to you before the end of the year.
Okay, so do you see us being able to do that in both scenarios of, the scenario in which we wait to see what the AG does with 1487 if we don't rescind the ordinance, but then also if, I will not be voting to rescind the ordinance, but if that does take place, we could, I guess, why do we need to rescind? Can we not just move forward and you run the processes that you need to run to ensure that this is financially viable?
Okay. Councilwoman, or Vice Mayor Ansari, Mayor, members of the council, I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to get into the legality of things. However, just me being a rational person, looking at the ordinance as it is. I've got questions about the ordinance and the applicability to certain things that I don't know if it was intended or if it was an oversight or an overreach. And so for me, signing an ordinance that may require a complete, if I were in your shoes, if I'm signing an ordinance that may require a complete overhaul with very little the same, I don't know why I'd sign that. I don't know why I'd adopt that. I'd probably wait until I had something that was in a better fashion that is achieving the goals of what I wanted to achieve, especially if I've got counterparts saying that they're supportive in trying to move something forward. But that's just me. That's my perspective.
Okay. I mean, I think where I stand on this has been pretty clear. It sounds to me like it would be viable for us to wait for a legal opinion and to have you look at a phased approach simultaneously. Either way, I would like to see us move forward in a positive way on this. I think it's far past time the City of Phoenix pass a prevailing wage. It's already a federal standard, and the projects that the City of Phoenix, our streets department, other departments, when they get funding from the federal government, they are already required to pay a prevailing wage. There's no reason why our city shouldn't be doing that. So I personally am extremely committed to making this work no matter what happens, but I hope that we can maybe consider, we've already passed this policy. Can we amend it in a way to make it legally and financially viable? But if not, I'm sure there's a way that we can move forward in a positive manner and bring everybody to the table, labor unions, industry leaders, and make this something that we pass. Thanks.
Councilwoman Pastor.
I'm sorry. I just need to correct something, and Julie, if you can help me. We're actually not rescinding it. The title is Repeal of the Prevailing Wage Ordinance and Request an 8-hour rule to research the legality of the Prevailing Wage Ordinance. I just needed to put that. It's a repeal of what was voted on last week, and I made the mistake of saying rescind, but it's really a repeal. My question to you, Jeff, is you made the statement, or actually Julie, Jeff made the statement, let's do the right thing and do it the right way. There's a path forward to do it the right way without repealing it. We have a 1487. In the 1487, the AG could say, here are the areas that are in conflict or that you need to look at. While that's going through, we can all have a discussion, like Vice Mayor Ansari said. There could be a dialogue. We can meet with community leaders, everybody that's all part of this. But my question is, do you recommend to repeal this?
Mayor and Council, that is definitely a policy choice, but we are faced with the 1487. You can choose as a policy to see how the AG reacts. At the very least, I would suggest that you halt the ordinance going into effect because of the threat of a 1487 and because of the fiscal challenges that we have. I don't think staff is ready to implement this ordinance within 30 days. So I think that we would need to have time to evaluate the impact of it and look at, potentially the wage study and how this would have impacts.
So I understand that. So what I heard is we need to study it. We need to look at the impact, also phase in the impact. So my question is, you're saying it can't happen in 30 days. So what's the timing that you would need?
Mayor and Council, from a legal standpoint, I think we need about 30 days as far as from the staff standpoint of researching and evaluating the legal. I'll let Jeff speak to that.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Pastor, I actually haven't had a chance to actually sit down and sketch that out, just being blatantly honest. The reality is if you really want to have full-on engagement, it's going to take some time. I mean, we've got to engage people on the front end and the back end and during the process, right? So that's where I was saying to you that from my perspective, it's going to take us some time. I mean, I think we can get a couple of meetings in on the front end with you, as well as with some of the folks that have a vested interest in it, prior to you going on recess, and then in the summer continue to work on it. You get back, have something to possibly present to you then. The goal would be to have something that you could present and adopt, and also for me to kind of phase in the approaches, because again, that's going to take some creativity, and that's kind of the place where I like to play. I think we all know that, and so I think I can have something for you by the end of the year. And that's I can't give you an exact date, and I don't want to give you false hope. And so I'd rather just tell you I think I can realistically get something to you by the end of the year.
So I appreciate that, because I don't want false hope. What I don't want is to repeal it if I'm hearing from staff or legal that we need more time to be able to implement this, stagger it in, and look at the budget pieces, implications of how then it gets phased in. That's what I just heard. That's how I'm interpreting it. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you got my part correct, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, as far as the phasing in to look at the financial aspect. I think the legal thing is that Julie's going to have to answer that question, and I think there are several pieces and components to that legal side of that.
And Mayor and Council, so our evaluation, if the ordinance that was passed stands, then obviously the only thing we can do is review that and give you advice. So I can't change the language. Now I could recommend changes to come back if I thought that there was some legal language in there that we could help fix. So that's normally the process that we would go through when we get an ordinance for development. So in this case, I would be able to evaluate it, and then I could recommend new language that you could bring back, or I could just say, here's the risks of your current language. Excuse me.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we can work with this. We have a 1487. I will come back. We flipped what happened in the ordinance is we flipped it in the sense of there wasn't an 8-hour of research. We flipped it. We came with an ordinance, and now now you're doing it the opposite way of coming back to us to say, here are the following areas that we have concern with. Here are the following things that we will be in line or out of line, and then we could then bring it back to a vote and vote for that versus repealing the whole thing.
Mayor and Council, that is certainly an option before you.
Thank you.
Mayor? Councilwoman Gordado.
So what do you need from us right now? Do we need to make a friendly amendment to Councilwoman Pastor's motion to give you that directive? What do we need to do?
Mayor and Council, I believe the motion that you have on the floor is to proceed with processing the ordinance. You can, if we did that, I would go ahead and go through that legal review process, and then I would just need direction. It depends. It's up to council whether you would want to bring that back for an evaluation to review the language.
Good. All right.
So,
Councilwoman Pastor.
So do I need to modify this motion, or?
Mayor and Council, you can modify your motion if you want to give me direction to do a legal review and, bring that evaluation back to council.
Okay. I would like to add that to my motion.
Okay, and the second agrees?
Second, yes.
All right. Any additional comments? I'm just going to say one more time, I support the effort for better pay, but it was done the wrong way, and we want to make the ordinance defensible in court. All right, we'll begin with online virtual comment from Mark Cardenas. Mark will be followed by in-person Jason Henley.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you, Mayor and honorable council members. For the record, I'm Mark Cardenas, address 2320 West Mitchell Drive. I'm a member of the of Boilermakers Local 627, here to speak in favor of the previous ordinance that was passed and in opposition to the repeal of that's on the motion today. Our union is made up of 80% Native American membership, and we're actually very proud to have majority of our current apprentices that are going through our program to be majority women. We supported many of you as you sought to be on council because we knew that you would have our backs as our members are up north and around the state, keeping our power plants running, keeping our mines going, our cement plants going. In particular, I know Councilwoman Guardado did mention that a lot of our union members do die. And in fact, we actually had a member pass away at a power plant last week due to the dangerous conditions that are there. But they do it because it keeps food on the table for their families and a roof over their head. And we do it in the hopes that our elected leaders, in particular the city of Phoenix, have their backs as they're working every day. And part of that, one of the most important things to our union is to have a prevailing wage language. That's in city code, state law, hopefully soon. So that's why I'm here to speak in support of prevailing wage and hoping that you all do the right thing today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Denise, do we have anyone else online?
Mayor, we do not. Not online.
We have many folks in person. So we will go to Jason next and then Josh Umar.
Jason Henley. I urge council to keep this in place and let the AG do her job. There's no harm in that. Thank you, Councilwoman Guardado, Anasari, and Pastor. I don't think I can say any more than you guys have said to this point. This hurts nobody. This is a ridiculous argument that we're having here today about paying people a livable wage, and that's where the roots of prevailing wage have come from. And the fact is that most people are probably making more than the prevailing wage. It is a statement by the city saying that, all these things that we've said, this is an actual action that the city can take instead of just speaking, right? So all I hear is a bunch of fear about what may happen, the legal ramifications, blah, 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 and that's all it is. It sounds like fear tactics to me. Let's let the AG figure out what her business is and whether she decides she wants to further the issue of this in court. And we can also work out the details of this, like Vice Mayor Anasari, said earlier. We've said time and time again, we want to pay our people 5% more than the average. Well, this is a great way to have the action in place to back up the words that we say instead of just livable wage, which really means nothing to anybody because there's no metric that's developed by anybody when we say that. With prevailing wage, there is an action that goes along with that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Josh is next, followed by Frank Piccioli.
All right. Hello. Thank you again to the mayor and council members. Welcome to the newer council members among you. My name is Josh Umar. I'm the executive director of the Subcontractors Association here in Arizona, and I'm here to support the repeal and the request for the 8-hour tonight. I will not rehash all the previous testimony I've given about the ill effects of the ordinance. I do just want to point to despite the disdain that's been expressed for it, some problems with the process. I mean, I've never been a part of a process where an ordinance is being passed. I've never seen it done, where a city attorney has not even had a chance to look at it. A city manager has not had a chance to look at it. People are offering amendments and being asked to vote on something that they've never even seen before or been presented with only minutes before. It seems like a disastrous way to make policy to me. And now we're hearing, despite the claims that we've all looked at this and we've been talking about it forever, that there's still miles to go in terms of wage impacts and phasing in and what do we do and what do we not do. This has not been thought through at all, in my opinion. So I'm here to support the repeal, and I'm also kind of wondering what problem is being solved here. I represent 200 plus subcontractors. My members are almost to a company paying above prevailing wage right now. They're investing millions in training programs and partnerships with local community colleges. They're working safely. They're doing things the way we want it done. And so what I would say is let's have a real stakeholder process that involves more than a small sliver of the workforce and more than a small sliver of the stakeholders involved, and ask us to come and talk with you. You know, we will bring, especially for newer council members, we've been asking for years, as long as this process has been ongoing, to have meetings, to come in and give you perspective on this, and we will bring as wide a swath of industry professionals as we can. My association is not trade specific. We represent every trade, and so we would ask you to repeal this and think this through with a better process. Thank you.
Frank is next, followed by Luke Douglas.
Afternoon, Frank Pacholi, President of ASPE Local 2960. We are opposed to revoking this. We want to keep the prevailing wage ordinance. It's the right thing to do. Certainly, I know that this council, along with the city, can walk and chew gum at the same time. So certainly we need to figure out the legality of it. Certainly we need to figure out the implementation of it, make sure it does not affect the city worker job study as well. But I think we can do both at the same time by keeping this. This is a statement. More than anything, it is a statement saying that prevailing wage is what we feel is the right thing to do. Let's just figure out a way to get it done through the complications that have occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. Luke is next, followed by Fred Yamashita.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Luke Douglas. I live at Central and Baseline in the South Mountain area. I'm an attorney with the Torres Law Group, and I'm here today to address some of the questions about the legality of the city's prevailing wage ordinance. The workers who've advocated for this ordinance over the last several years only have one ask this afternoon: time. Arizona law gives cities a process to test the legality of ordinances with minimal cost and an expedited timeline without ever setting foot in a courtroom. SB 1487 allows any state legislator to challenge the legality of any ordinance and request the Attorney General to investigate it. That process began earlier this week when Senator Miranda filed a 1487 challenge alleging that the Phoenix prevailing wage ordinance violates Arizona Revised Statutes 34-321, as its opponents have been saying throughout this process. The AG now has 30 days to investigate and rule on whether the city has the authority to enact prevailing wage. So in terms of the ordinance itself, when we compare the city's prevailing wage ordinance, Arizona ARS 34-321, and the Arizona Municipal Minimum Wage Act, there is some room for attorneys to disagree on how to interpret these conflicting laws, but at the end of the day, we only need to wait a matter of a few weeks to have an answer. The Attorney General will rule. If she rules that it's illegal, then we can repeal it and move on. If the Attorney General rules the ordinance is legal, then we can focus on the merits of the question and not fear of legal repercussions. We can talk about the economic impact to workers and the city and make our decision based on merits rather than fear. Thank you so much.
Fred is next, followed by Jason. Jason Sangari.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
I'd like to welcome new council members Hodge, Washington, and Robinson. Congratulations. So my name is Fred Yamashita, and I'm the Executive Director of the Arizona AFL-CIO. We represent 160,000 union members belonging to over 54 different unions in the state of Arizona. But we advocate for workers all across the state. And today, again, I am asking for the mayor and council to really consider retaining the prevailing wage ordinance or resolution that was passed on March 22nd. Let the process play itself out with the Attorney General. It will not be a long time to wait. We're talking about less than 30 days. And I think, as has been said several times in the last few minutes, that there's plenty of time to do the right thing in regards to the legal process, the finances of the city, and then ultimately the fate of the workers that would be affected by prevailing wage for the city of Phoenix. It's the right thing to do, and I'm just hoping that we go back to the invocation earlier this evening, that wisdom would be upon this mayor and council tonight in their decision. Thank you.
Jason is next, followed by Devin.
Good evening. My name is Jason Sangster, Business Manager, Financial Secretary, Ironworkers Local 75 here in Arizona. I am in favor of prevailing wage. The last project we did down here for the Ironworkers Local 75 was in 2012, and I was on that project. I was on majority of your projects. I went through the apprenticeship through Local 75. I was on majority of the projects downtown Phoenix throughout the 20 years of my career here, 21 years. And I proudly built Phoenix. I built it every day. I went to work proudly every day. The last time I went to work for Phoenix was in 2012. My members today have not touched the Phoenix project since then, and it's mostly because of this. Prevailing wage prevents wage theft. It ensures that good skilled workers are on the job site. It makes sure that everybody that's there is doing their job. This is why union workers are on prevailing wage job, and is why prevailing wage is a union scale. Somebody here earlier talked about the impact, evaluate the impact. I could tell you right now, we will be evaluating the impact, investigating a collapsed structure at the end of when when it fails. I mean, we're going to be looking at it like New York is right now, looking at a failed structure years from now because we chose the cheap route, and we chose to not use skilled, qualified workers to do this job. That's all I got to say about this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Devin.
Mayor, I have a question for him.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you just explain a little bit more deep what's the difference between a worker that receives a prevailing wage and a worker that doesn't?
The difference between that is going to be that the workers that are on prevailing wage jobs are going to get a benefit package if they're a union worker. And if it's going to be an open market worker, typically they're paid out all on the check. So they don't have a benefit package, and that's going to be, basically the difference there. And also the union workers have gone through a certified apprenticeship. They are required to prove that on these prevailing wage jobs by certified payroll. All the contractors have to do that, so they're utilizing certified apprentices that are in a certified apprenticeship program with the state of Arizona. So that's very important. That is training that's approved through the state of Arizona for the craft that we do.
And do you know how many other states or cities have also passed the prevailing wage? Is it just Arizona, or does prevailing wage already exist in other jurisdictions?
Oh, it exists in many other jurisdictions. We're kind of on the late freight of catching up to them.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Devin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Arbuthnot. I am a union iron worker out of Local 75. I was fortunate enough that my brothers elected me as one of their trustees for the union. So I'm here to voice my support for keeping the prevailing wage, or getting it active, and opposing the repeal of this. I'm going to read a little passage from ARS 23-364. It says right here, a county, city, or town may by ordinance regulate minimum wage and benefits within its geographic boundaries. So I think that makes it pretty clear that this is legal. I mean, I heard some talk about a process, but in my opinion, it's kind of just a backhanded way to screw over us workers, union and non-union. It seems by Councilwoman Pastor's account that there has been a long process going to get this passed, and now we're just coming up with last-minute excuses to try and keep working people down. And I think that all of us here need to make our voices very loud, very clear that prevailing wage will show that the city of Phoenix is on the side of the working person, and we'll be setting a trend, hopefully, for more cities to follow and support the working class people. The cost of living is going up, wages are stagnating. We need some kind of protection against that. That's kind of all I've got to say. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
I had a question for you, Julie, if you may. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Can you explain a little bit more as to the 1487, the scope of what those reviews look like? Is it limited simply to its conformance with state law, or is it a more comprehensive review?
So, Mayor and Council, I actually haven't seen the 1487, so it will depend on how that is laid out. And it also depends on the Attorney General if they want to look at the broader issues or just on its face whether it's a violation of the state statute. I assume the state statute in question is 34-421, which is a state preemption of municipalities enacting any kind of wages in relation to construction work. So the Attorney General might just look at that issue straight and then let the city respond.
I have a couple questions. Is it fair to say that the city has already received the threat of litigation if this ordinance will go forward?
Mayor and Council, yes, we have.
And if I want to make sure I wrote down correctly what your recommendation was to, Councilwoman Laura Pastor regarding halting the ordinance from going into effect for a period of time so that an additional ordinance can be crafted or something of that effect.
Mayor and Council, yes, of course, as I have already said, it's certainly Council's policy direction, but legally, we would appreciate time to review it, to try to look at the language, to try to give advice, and also, of course, for staff to prepare if this was going to go into effect.
Thank you for those clarifications.
Thank you. 1487 was legislation originally passed by Andy Biggs when he was a member of our state legislature. It was designed to respond to what he felt was overreaches by local government. It was not designed to allow the Attorney General to offer free legal advice to cities. This Attorney General is just willing to talk to us, and so we can do so without threat of loss of state shared revenues. I've been vocal in my opposition to 1487 and will continue to do so. I think it's important to be consistent. If it is a bad tool, we should be consistent and say it is always something that preempts cities and is not a good way to get things done. For folks in the labor movement, you will benefit more if we do something legally that lasts and follows good established procedures. It is more important to have public policy that sticks than a quick victory that is easy to overturn. Councilwoman Pastor.
Julie and City Manager Barton, you had stated that you needed more time. I heard 30 days, and then I heard a little bit more. How much time or how many days do you need?
Mayor and Council, I think we both gave different answers depending on the review. So for a legal review, I think 30 days to look at the language and do some research and be able to make any suggestions. We could probably get that done in that time. And
on my side, if you want a real process involving all aspects and all folks affected by this, then I think would need a longer runway, and then also time for me to develop a way to implement it to where that you minimize the impact on the budget that we're in the process of adopting right now, and try to build it into the budget as we start constructing the 24-25 budget.
Okay, so is that 30, 60, 90, 120?
Councilwoman.
I just need, I need time because I'm asking because I'm going to revise my motion, so I'm asking.
Yeah, from my perspective, Councilwoman Pastor, I think I mentioned earlier, I can't give you a definitive date. All I can commit to is that I can probably go through a complete process on my end with all the things that I'm going to look at by the end of the calendar year, and have something presented to you that could be adopted and hopefully in effect if you adopt it by the end of the year. I can't do any better than that right now. Just given, again, I have to look at scheduling, and you guys go on break. I've got to work over the summer. We've got other processes. I've got a bond program coming up. I mean, there are a variety of other things.
I understand that. I just need it. Either that or I'm going to put something in. So end of the year is what? 6 months? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to revise my motion. I'm going to move to halt enforcement of the ordinance for 6 months. I don't know how many days that is, but you guys. And I direct staff to prepare a prevailing wage ordinance that incorporates enacting the following prevailing wage ordinance for the city projects to be codified as Article 14 of Chapter 43 of the Phoenix City Code that was passed on March 22nd, 2023, enacting, which will include a phase-in implementation.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Right. Okay.
Mayor.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Mayor, she made a substitute motion, so now is she completely amending her substitute motion? I'm trying to understand the process.
I'm adding after this discussion, yes, this is my substitute motion.
And then Councilwoman Guardado. But I think it would we could, to follow our rules, you can't make a new substitute, but you can amend.
Correct, if it's a friendly amendment, Mayor and Council. So
friendly amending.
My understanding is she's.
I think that seems like a sufficient friendly amendment, and Councilwoman Guardado was comfortable with it. I am still going to support the original motion, but I think that is a legal friendly amendment. Okay, so we roll call and recognize everyone who wishes to explain their vote.
What are we?
We are voting on your motion.
Guardado.
Mayor, I want to explain my vote. So I think that we need to move forward with this. I appreciate, Jeff, you working with us to try to make this work. I think that we've been talking about this for some of us 2020, for other people a little bit longer than that. So I think that we really need to move forward. We have a crisis. We have a housing crisis. We have a crisis with people that are experiencing homelessness. We see workers dying on the job every day, and we just need to stop this. I had a friend of mine, she's 7 months pregnant, and she lost her husband in one of these construction sites as she is getting ready to have a baby. So we definitely need to make these changes. We definitely need a prevailing wage that's going to work for everyone. And I'm hopeful that we will also talk to the AG and figure out something that's going to work for everyone that's involved, but especially the workers that continue to go into these construction sites, and a lot of them do not know if they're going to go back home to their families. And I will be voting yes.
Hodge Washington.
I'll also take a second to explain my vote. I believe that every worker should be compensated with fair, decent, and comparable wages, regardless of the employer. Economic development and providing opportunities for those that need it most is very important to me. However, I cannot take off my legal hat. It's part of the skill set that I believe in part is why I was elected. I know what happens when we don't follow legal advice. To be clear, I understand my colleagues' frustration and respect their desire to get something done in an expedient manner. The timeline shows that this has been in the works for some time, but I also acknowledge that the resolution that was currently before us has some deficiencies that should be remedied. If our goal is to get something passed, we shouldn't move forward with something that is flawed, that we know is flawed. I think the mayor acknowledged that we have an extraordinary opportunity right now to craft an ordinance that meets with that goal with the assistance of the Attorney General's office. So I do believe that we should collectively, I do believe that all of us collectively want to ensure that whatever is passed involves all of the stakeholders and follows the necessary procedural requirements. Moreover, it doesn't instill trust in our process when the city manager, the city attorney, and members of city council didn't previously see and have an opportunity to vet the ordinance. So I am in favor of direction to the staff to craft a prevailing wage ordinance that follows the proper procedural steps, including outreach to affected stakeholders, that considers the fiscal and practical impacts and takes a phased implementation. Because we do not want to negatively impact our hardworking city staff. We also want to enact something that we know will be upheld. To do otherwise would simply be an empty promise to the workers within our city. I support the motion, especially because it gives us the opportunity to work with the Attorney General's office to craft something that is likely to pass legal challenges. So I vote yes.
O'Brien.
No.
Pastor.
Let me explain my vote. I made the motion, but I'm going to explain. In this motion and in this dialogue, and the reason why there was some amendments to it was because I heard staff say we need more time in order to implement this and look at this, so I gave more time. Directed staff, it allows the AG to come into play because we're not repealing it, so the AG can come into play. And then I also heard about the phasing in and the budget and fiscal responsibility, which we all have. So this motion has everything with a dialogue and discussion, along with the community to have additional conversations. So it provides everything that everyone has talked about and concerns and has said. So I'm voting yes.
Robinson.
If I could explain my vote, please. Just in the last 24 hours or so, I've received no less than 40 emails, text messages, and phone calls about this issue, and I will tell you it has been a split. Most, half in favor, the other half against. And a promise I made, not too different from Councilwoman Pastor, the promise I made throughout the campaign is that I would always listen to the folks as they brought issues forward to the City Council. And then what I would do from there is take that information to the best of my ability based on the information that was given to me, make a decision. What I'm concerned about, not necessarily concerned, but based on the information that our city manager has provided and what the possible costs would be, that is of concern to me. And I think it would be irresponsible of me, especially, it just would be irresponsible of me not to consider that. Because we have significant financial issues that we have to consider. And based on information provided by the city manager, adopting this now and then following this procedure, it would cost. It would be a considerable cost, and I think there would be considerable unintended consequences attached to it. For that reason, I'm voting no.
Stark?
No.
Waring?
No.
Ansari?
Yes.
Gallego?
No.
Fails 4-5. We are back on the original motion.
Roll call on the original motion.
Guardado?
No.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Pastor?
No.
Robinson?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring?
Yes.
Ansari?
No.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 6-3.
Turn to Vice Mayor for a motion related to the 8-hour rule.
Can I ask a couple questions first?
Please do.
These questions are for Jeff. So building off of the conversation we just had and the direction that Councilwoman Pastor just gave around directing staff to implement to figure out a process of how to make prevailing wage work in the city of Phoenix, I feel very strongly that I want to start this immediately. Bringing stakeholders to the table, labor needs to be at the table. Of course, industry also needs to be at the table. Can you tell us how quickly you can move this process and what it might look like?
Yeah, Councilwoman and Vice Mayor Ansari, Mayor, members of the council, I need a few days just to kind of process and sketch it out. Again, I think we can, given that we've got assurances that the Attorney General's office is willing to talk to us also to try and help find a safe space as it pertains to the state statutes. So I would probably be able to get back to you with some sort of sketched out process in a week or a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, and then again look at trying to identify folks that could participate in the various focus groups, and then have some deadlines for myself as well as the staff that's going to be working on it. I got to see who's available. Again, we've got a lot of staff that are busy doing other things right now, and some of those things are also legally obligated. We're at year end. So we got a lot of other things that we got to get done. So again, I think I can have a process and a product and have a couple of meetings before you guys go away on break in June or July, and then have something for you when you come back and you know, to vote on before the end of the year. I can't give you a firm date without actually having to sketch it out and understand how much work is going to be involved. You know, because it's not one focus group, it's not two focus groups, it's several. It's meeting with you guys on the front end, meeting with the Attorney General, meeting with labor, industry, and then staff as well, because we're also going to have some staffing needs. You know, our Title 34 staff is going to need more people because you got to also ensure compliance. We also have more people in procurement probably because, again, we're going to have to vet contracts differently and let them differently. So there's a lot of planning that has to go into this. It's not just something I can, you know, I wish I could give you a direct answer. It's a
That's
vague.
fine. I mean, you said end of the year during the last conversation, which was to halt the enforcement.
Yep.
But in theory, had that passed, we would have had something by the end of the year to look at. Can you give us assurance that we will have a policy by the end of the year to vote on again?
My goal today, and I will say this to everybody, my goal is by the end of the year, we will have something for you to evaluate for consideration.
Okay. And can you also give us assurance that the workers that are actually being impacted by the policy would also be at the table for these conversations?
Of course.
Okay.
Mayor?
I'm done with questions. I can do the motion. Or...
Great. Let's do the motion.
Okay. I motion to authorize the use of the 8-hour rule pursuant to Rule 15 of the Rules of Council Proceedings to allow staff to research a prevailing wage or similar ordinance intended to provide livable wages to contract workers on city projects, to include options for applicability with various types of city contracts, as well as a phased implementation to ensure fiscal health and sustainability.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Pastor.
May I ask the motion maker to put by December, by our last December meeting? Or
I'm okay with that.
What's the last formal in December? I don't have it on my calendar. So December 13th.
So to bring back a policy by December 13th, 2023.
And the seconder is okay with that? Yep. Okay, so the motion has a deadline, so being responsive to Councilwoman Guardado, Vice Mayor Ansari, and Councilwoman Pastor's need for deadlines. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you. Jeff, I guess my other question to you is, when we say labor, when we say workers, I think I would also be comfortable that we meet with the union's labor attorneys as well as we're doing this. Can we get a commitment around that as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call on the Vice Mayor's motion.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
No.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
No.
Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
Thank you. That concludes item 108. We next move to the final portion of the City Council meeting, citizen comment. I will turn to our City Attorney to explain this portion.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments, but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. Citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with Brother Stephen Sidlowski, followed by Timothy Coughlin.
Beloved Phoenix City Council, Mayor and citizens, I'm lay brother Stephen Gerard Sidlowski. I would just like to open with everybody here. There's about 110 of us in the council chambers. This is from the Holy Bible, Isaiah 44:24. God, your Redeemer, who shaped your life in your mother's womb, says, I am God. I made all that is. With no help from you, I spread out the skies and laid out the earth. I'm delighted to let everybody know since the last City Council meeting, I was able to attend a wonderful youth life educational series. If anybody would like to look at what we all likely looked like as persons in our mother's womb at 14 weeks, I have a wonderful ultrasound video now on my phone, which I've never had before. It also includes a heartbeat. Also, it was a delight to be at the Ahwatukee Easter Parade. It was very well organized, very well attended, and I purposely went down the street about an hour before the parade, where I presented the Life Peace Zone banner and handed out some wonderful Bible bookmarks to those in attendance. It's a very wonderful family-oriented event. I've never witnessed an Easter parade in the country. I travel all over the country, so it's very special for your community to have an Easter resurrection parade. Upcoming, we have Mother's Day and Father's Day. I'm going to eventually be delivering to all of you a proposed personhood resolution and new language where you can insert personhood language as a preamble in your city charter. And I look forward to discussing those possibilities at a future workshop, possibly with your legal department, city manager, and mayor, whoever you felt might be important who would like to receive that educational series. Finally, my final talk is I do continue to express continued concerns for what I witnessed in that crisis in the last city council meeting for potentially displaced citizens on the mobile home scenario at Grand Canyon University. I purposely did the next day, as I promised I would, to go over and visit the university. I did deliver a letter of concern to President Mueller and his executive assistant, Amy, and I hope that they will continue to respond positively, but I do express that there are some concerns out there with what's going on with all of that, and I think the city mayor here might consider an emergency 90-day humanitarian crisis ordinance. Thank you all. God bless you very much.
Thank you. Timothy is next, followed by Leonard Clark.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego, members of the City Council. Thank you for your attention. First, I'd like to greet my new councilman, Kevin Robinson. Thank you very much, Councilman Robinson, for your time and cordiality in our prior conversation on the telephone. I wish you a very fruitful tenure in your new position. One quality of life issue which bothers me is all of the gravel on the sidewalks. I guess that all of the Phoenician dogs have decided to go into the garden and pour a lot of the gravel onto the sidewalk. To me, it's very irritating to have to walk over all this gravel. It cuts your soles and goes into your shoes. Sometimes I think that the nickname of Arizona should be changed from the Grand Canyon State to the Gravel State. At least the GRA would remain in the name. I wonder whether perhaps small fences could be erected around all of the yards which have the gravel in them, fences high enough so that the dogs can't get their paws over them. If that's not considered feasible, perhaps either it could be mandated that the gravel be glued together or that the gravel be removed and leave the dirt or dry grass underneath. Or put down linoleum or rubber or some other such surface in these gardens. Or perhaps you could install some smooth stone there. Whatever you do, I wish the gravel could be removed. And there should be no more watering of the grass, given our water shortage. This is another problem in my neighborhood. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Leonard is next, followed by Beatrice Johnson.
Hello, City Council members, and I would like you, some of you probably already know this, but for some of our citizens and residents who are watching, what took place today with the union, and by the way, you can thank our union brothers and sisters, just as my father was AFL, part of a carpenters union, AFL-CIO for 50 years. You can thank them for your overtime, the limitations on what employers will do to you. You know, remember the old days where children were they had to go to work when they were 8, 10, 11, or 12, and sadly some states are trying to make excuses by making it easier to bring back child labor, not just for the family, but these big companies, because they're so desperate to get the workers, but they don't want to pay us much. But the last governor, the reason the cities are so afraid, one, in the state constitution, they basically have the cities, the municipalities of Arizona, in a permanent inferior position. So they can always say, I've listened to many legislators at the state and committee say, we have the power over the cities because in the state constitution. The last governor stacked the Arizona State Supreme Court with more judges, put on judges that he wanted. Study the process of how the judges are appointed. But one of the original sins going on right now in our country, and not just because of what's happening, you know, but our situation, is gerrymandering. We have congressional districts, like where I live in Congressional District 9 with I was going to say gentleman, but an individual named Paul Gosar, and he won with almost 70% of the vote. When people see that their vote doesn't count because the districts are so gerrymandered, people lose hope. And in a constitutional, and yes to my conservative friends, democratic republic, when people lose hope, then they give up on the notion of loving maybe the country they're in, because why should they care if they don't have a voice? People are not stupid. We have the internet now. It is outdated to think the public is not watching 24/7 now with the internet what goes on. So to the people out there watching, if you want to change this so workers can get paid fairly, the federal government, thanks to, the Democrats, I'm an independent progressive, are doing something about that. But here in Arizona, you have to stop the gerrymandering, and we have to be watching the state legislature. We have our attention here, but they're there right now. They're the ones who have no rent control, so your children can be put out in the street. They're constantly trying to weaken environmental controls. So anyways, Look at the appointment of Superior Court judges. Look at the gerrymandering. Again, where I live, the guy won with 70%. No Democrat even dared to run against him. But we need to make it a fair system. Independents shouldn't have to get triple the amount of votes if you're an independent like myself. This is not going to change until, instead of people saying, terminate the Constitution, we can amend things. Let's get something done. Don't give up.
Thank you. Beatrice is next, followed by Jeremy Thacker.
Good evening. My name is Beatrice X. Johnson. I am the baby sister of Dorothy Jean Dale Chambers, who was killed on April 26, 2022, along with her companion Joseph Gutierrez. They were killed by Nabaska Pekovic, who was speeding. The data show he was doing 58 to 60 miles an hour in a 40-mile zone. He was under the influence. He said he was not drinking, but he blew a .031. And when he was asked why he had alcohol in his system, he said he took 2 doses of Dayquil earlier in the day. He flunked several steps in the sobriety test. The responding officer wrote in the police report that he showed signs of impairment 2 times. An officer came later, 1 hour and 50 minutes later, and gave him an eye exam and allowed him to go home after killing 2 people speeding while under the influence. Our family has been through pure hell with the police department, the Phoenix Police Department. First of all, my sister laid in the morgue for 8 days, and they never notified us. Detective Taryn Campbell never called our family. Detective Taryn Campbell has not called our family to this date. Even though he is the lead detective on this case, he has never called us. Anytime this case was moved, I had to go see the police department. I had to go see a lieutenant. He never, ever moved this case unless I and our family pushed. And so now it's a felony, but the county refused to take it, mostly in part because of the way the city of Phoenix wrote the report, but it's for misdemeanor. He had an arraignment on the 7th. He did not show up for the arraignment. So I asked the judge to put a warrant out. The city prosecutor was sitting right there. She did not ask. I turned around and asked her, couldn't you have done that? And she said, yes. This gives our family no hope that we will be really receiving justice of any form from the city prosecutor office concerning this case. He was arrested, but he did not see the judge. Our family was again denied our victims' rights because we were not able to go to the judge because he never saw the judge. He had 2 deaths and a failure to appear in a 2nd degree, and he did not see the judge. There's a lot going on with this, and we will continue to come back until this person is held accountable, and all those who are involved in this case are held accountable, especially Detective Taryn Campbell, who never notified our family, and as the lead detective has yet to speak to our family concerning this case.
Thank you. Jeremy is next, followed by Eric Nielsen.
Good afternoon again. I'm going to submit 2 citizen petitions to the council regarding, I need to keep one of them, it's stapled, regarding developments in the TOD districts. The first one is to create a policy that will not allow old entitlements that were put on properties prior to the transit or the light rail even being finished or started from disrupting the plans that we have for the light rail districts and the TOD districts as part of Reinvent Phoenix, which is happening now. Also to create a temporary zoning overlay that prevents certain elements that are objectively non-walkable from being part of any developments within the TOD district. Much like we did with the TOD 1, when we needed a temporary plan to step in and prevent people from creating developments that were going to disrupt the light rail. I think the same needs to be done now for the holes that are in the walkable urban code. So I've outlined some of that in here. The problem we face in Uptown, at least, in my neighborhood, is that we are getting ready to be the most dense residential neighborhood in the city, including downtown, with everything that's being proposed. And while we've completed our part with the density of the developments, adding 5,000 units and in an area of a half mile, which will more than double our population, the remaining elements are still outstanding. So when done well, density has much to offer. When done poorly, by clustering narrow ranges of income groups, household types, and economic activities, constricts daily life and removes options. In other words, density without walkability is inhumane. And that's exactly what we're facing in Uptown. So I'm asking that you do something about it. Plus the fundamentals that go along with it. Timothy, I'd love to have your sidewalks with gravel on them. We're missing sidewalks on a minor collector street where on the children's path to school at Central High School. No protected bike paths. As I got on the train to come here today, I live at Campbell and Central, right at the canal. A pedestrian was struck and I believe killed by a vehicle as I was coming here. That's where 5,000 kids go to school. If we're going to say we're doing transit-oriented developments, let's actually do it. Let's don't make it an excuse to create density and nightmares that create revenue for the city, but don't give us the lives that we were promised. Thank you.
Mr. Nielsen is next, followed by Elizabeth Venable.
Hello, my name is Eric. So many thoughts to send at you guys, but I guess that's our email address for. But today I want to tell you about a friend I made once named Lyndon Hubert. I made him in college. He was nice. He's part of a little international group of friends at Scottsdale Community College. And like me, he suffered from mental illness. He was a good guy. He's a good guy. And we all loved him. He never hurt a fly type of shit. But he got evicted from his sober house because he smoked marijuana with me in a hotel room. And he died at the side of Broadway in a fucking heat stroke in the middle of July. I don't hold other people culpable for his decision to walk 36 miles. I don't. But what I do hold accountable is to not change what's wrong with the system. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Elizabeth Venable is next, followed by Frank Urban.
Oops, sorry. Okay, hello, my name is Elizabeth Venable, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and the founder of Fund for Empowerment. Some of you, many of you are familiar with our organization. Some of you are new, and so I just wanted to say just up front that we recently had successful litigation against the city of Phoenix for violating the civil rights of people who are on the streets, particularly by throwing away their personal property. However, I'm pleased with how it's going so far, but I can't talk any more about that. Anyways, what I wanted to say, though, is that many of the shelter facilities that are in the city of Phoenix are not Americans with Disabilities Act compliant. For example, Central Arizona Shelter Services, if you call them, you can verify this. If you have epilepsy, you cannot stay there. If you have physical disabilities, you cannot stay there. If you have cognitive disabilities wherein you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot stay there. If you have emotional behavioral disabilities wherein you are disruptive, you cannot stay there. And CAS is often an entry point into other forms of shelter. So denying people access to the resources that are in CAS is problematic, very problematic. And then I would also say that, as I've stated before, shelter is a cost savings to the city. If you put the most expensive people to take care of on the streets, it's an elevation of costs. And some of that is federal funds. I know a lot of the budget doesn't necessarily come from the general fund, but it's still city money that is being spent and could be spent if saved on other quality of life issues. So I wanted to say also, sorry to skip to another point, I wanted to say also I think we need transparency in the police budget, in the MOU, and citizen participation, because it represents such a huge portion of the general fund budget. And it doesn't seem very transparent to allocate such a huge portion of the budget, much higher than the surrounding cities actually, as a percentage of the overall general fund, and probably the entire budget, but definitely the general fund. And so I think that transparency may give an insight into whether or not residents of the city of Phoenix feel that it's well spent money. But again, back to it, I know my time's going to run out. Please look into ADA violations in city-funded facilities, federal-funded facilities, such as Central Arizona Shelter Services and UMOM. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank is next, followed by Kim Baker.
Hi, my name is Frank Urban. I've been an Arizona native since 1993. I'm also with Fund for Empowerment. I would like to bring address to the affordable housing shortage. I know you guys are working on this, but there's very little affordable housing for the people on the streets. There's very little in the way of heat relief during the summer. There's very little, and also I would like to bring up, they could use some more public restrooms out there that are open 24/7 so that they can use them, so that the business owners will stop complaining about them defecating or urinating on their property. If they have the facilities there, they will use them. Just like with Elizabeth, CAS will not allow people with mental disabilities, physical disabilities, anything like that to stay there. And I honestly believe that you guys should take this money out of the general fund instead of the federal fund for this. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Baker is next, followed by Mark Rodriguez.
Excuse me. I'm still having some challenges, but I'm encouraged to be here with you today. I have a petition before the mayor and the council. Wanted to say hello to you all, councilmen. I think I gave it to you last week, 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. I did give it to you guys. Anyway, before the city manager, I'm asking that you investigate what happened to the open law complaint. I put the wrong date there, but I'm asking November the 22nd date be looked into by the city manager's office. The complaint was given to, a copy of it was given to you all. I have not had an answer yet. So as soon as you can give me a answer would be great. Anyway, have a good day. All right. Thank you.
Can somebody follow up with him? Thank you.
And staff has received the petition. We can confirm that. Mark Rodriguez.
Hello, Mayor Kate Gallego and members of the Phoenix City Council. It's good to hear from you again. It's because I like to talk to you guys at the formal meeting because I was going to go over there because I have other things to do because I wanted to see you guys again because and I wanted to meet the new members. But hey, it is what it is, Mayor and City Councils. And it's also the subjects that all that stuff from the city of Phoenix that even though I'm a Levine resident for like 13 years and all that stuff, and Keisha Hush Washington, Kevin Robertson, it's good to hear from you guys. It's because I never met you guys, but even though I met you before, but hey, you know, it's because Mayor Gallego, I wish I could see you again and all that. And Yasmin, I'm sorry. I hope you got your birthday card because I called your office and hopefully you got it received. And Laura Pastor, it's good to hear from you, and I wanted to see you again, but Betty Wangado too, and Jim Waring and all the other people and at the City Council and Mayor Gallego, especially you and your son and all that stuff, because I like talking to you all the time, and even though it's difficult that because even though I'm autistic, a man, because it's because I'm just saying because you guys are awesome and welcome Keisha and Kevin, and it's good to hear from you, Mayor, and it's good to hear from all of you at the City Council, and it's because Laura Pastor do Japanese language. It's because I hope you're listening to you because I hope I'll teach you how when I see you. And Yasmin, I'm sorry, I can't wait to see you again because the city needs me and all that stuff because I like seeing you, Yazzie. I like seeing you, Mayor KG, and Betty, and Deborah Stark, and Jim Waring, and all the other people from the city councils because I am just autistic. And ever since you gave me the city certificate like a couple of years ago when I toured the Phoenix City Hall, it's because, Mayor Gallego, I know you're smiling. It's because I like you, Mayor, as a friend, as a Phoenix resident, and as a community peace person in Levine. And also, I am a happy guy, and I love seeing you all the time. And Yasmin, I'm sorry if you're hearing this. I hope I'll see you soon, and I hope I'll see you on Saturday. And also, I'm just happy about this, about seeing you at the Saturday's event. And also, Mayor Gallego and members of the councils, it is good to hear from you, and it's good to hear from all of you. And Mayor Gallego, and that's it for me. Have a wonderful day. May the force be with you.
Thank you, Mark. Ismael Morales is next, followed by Carmen Terrell.
Can you hear? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Good evening. I'm here to present a citizen petition, so bear with me. Pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 22 of the Phoenix City Charter, I would like to present a citizen petition regarding certain motions limiting public comment during meetings of the Phoenix City Council. Whereas during the formal meeting of April 5th, 2023, item 93 was placed on the agenda by 3 council members regarding a study for a potential moratorium on development of 3 mobile home parks in the city of Phoenix. Whereas a motion was made by Councilmember Stark, seconded by Councilmember O'Brien, to have no public comment for item 93 as a similar item was heard at the previous formal meeting. So item 93 was a different item but served a similar purpose. Whereas many residents of those affected mobile home parks were present at the meeting, expected to be heard and speak on that item. Whereas on a vote of 5-4, the motion did pass and no public comment was held for that item. Whereas as public officials, it is essential for citizens to exercise their First Amendment right to speak. In that case, given it was a different item, citizens were denied of that right. Whereas the Phoenix City Council currently has that right to limit public comment according to council rules and procedures. However, it is up to local to implement rules on public comments. In accordance with Arizona Attorney General Opinion Number I-99-006, it states that while open meeting law grants members of the public the absolute right to attend public meetings, the open meeting law neither requires nor prohibits participation by the public in the discussions and deliberations of a public body. This in turn leaves it up for discretion by each public body to decide how to handle public participation. I hereby petition to the Phoenix City Council to revise Phoenix City Code Section 2-60, Rule 9 of the Decorum Speaker and Audience and add the following subdivision: that the mayor or presiding officer and council members motions that limit public comment to no public comment. That includes for all items new and continued, except for public hearings that are time certain that are open and closed by the mayor or presiding officer. The Phoenix City Council should uphold their duty to listen to citizens and take those comments into consideration when hearing an item. Please act upon this within the 15 days according to said Phoenix City Charter Code. I emailed this to all the offices and to the city clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carmen is our next speaker.
Hello, can you hear me?
We
Hello?
can.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. My name is Carmen Terrell, and I just want to say that I'm confused on where to turn, because when I hear about the shelter services that are happening around here, 1 minute I'm told to go to the actual facility to address these concerns, but then when I go to these places, they're telling me to go to the council. And the same holds true for the Valley Metro Transit Company, along with other transit companies that are in the city of Phoenix. So I'm confused, and I really need some clarification. And also, I just want to say, too, that with this stuff that's going on here, and a lot of people have commented today, and I just think that there needs to be changes done, as well as just some kind of action, as well as acknowledgement, because I feel like impoverished people and things that are needed for the impoverished community are not being done, except for like a city sweep. And it's just getting too tiresome. You know, a lot of people have various sources of income, which, you know, a lot of places aren't allowing, as well as the Section 8 issue. I've talked about that many times before, because I feel like vouchers are a waste. They're backlogged. There's no time and portability and all that. It's biased and everything. There needs to be help now. And I just think that I need some clarification as well as some action. So if there's any way that I can get some kind of feedback from you all, that'll be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Carmen is our final registered speaker. We are adjourned.
ADOT will remove your filled trash bags from the roadside after the cleanup is complete. Avoid overexertion and drink plenty of fluids to stay hydrated. Adopt a Highway program encourages recycling, so collect the recyclables and take them with you. Make sure your group has enough water and that on-site first aid is available. Leave snakes alone. People are bitten because they try to kill a snake or get a closer look at it. Keep hands and feet out of areas you cannot see. Don't pick up rocks or firewood. Be cautious and alert at all times. If you or a group member is bitten, wash the bite with soap and water. Immobilize the bitten area and keep it lower than the heart and get medical help. Remember, you signed a permit to do this. That permit has terms and conditions. It is very important that you read and abide by them. Inform your ADOT Adopt a Highway contact at least 5 days prior to the cleanup effort. We need to make sure your dates don't conflict with other highway uses, so it's very important to know who your Adopt a Highway contact is and that they have your contact information. We need to know as quickly as possible if a new coordinator is appointed or if you change any of your contact information. Make sure everyone in your group fills out a volunteer registration form before each cleanup. The Arizona Department of Transportation wants this to be a rewarding and safe experience for all of you. Volunteers like you make this program successful by giving your time and energy to make a positive impact on the environment. Your efforts are appreciated, very much so, not only by ADOT, but also by the citizens of Arizona and the visitors who will enjoy a cleaner state because of your hard work. So spread the word. Arizona, keep it grand.
Hello, my name is Elijah, and I'm a water resource specialist here at the City of Phoenix. Businesses are part of what make Phoenix a great place to live, and like our other residents, they have their own role to play for water conservation. However, we understand that water conservation for businesses is different than our other residents. If you're a business owner, you know that your facility uses water in many more ways